This week, I'm teaming up with Bill from Bill Making Stuff.
Hello, this is Bill from Bill Making Stuff.
In this two-player co-op, we'll each be making something from a classic 8-bit game. Bill will be making a Metroid from the eponymous Metroid, which is a game that he played.
Do you think I can get away with making that rusty orange robot from Metroid instead?
And I'll be making nothing. Thanks for watching. I'll actually be making Meta Knight from Kirby's Adventure, a game that I have never played, because I'm a fake fan that first encountered Sakurai's Sword Son right here. This is the good garbage that inspired this build, because sometimes you just have to go where the trash wind takes you. The other day I ate some frozen dumplings. They were alright, but they came with the set of 6 Meta Knight masks, so I knew what I had to make. The plastic on this tray is so thin that it melts if you hold it for too long, so it was delicate surgery to cut out the visor. There were some casualties along the way because the plastic is so flimsy and terrible. Now we need a ball body. Since the mask size is set, the mask must dictate the ball size. The trouble with most of my balls is that they're too big. I was hoping to use this little cute small ball of Gundam fame. I actually used one once before to make this 8-bit inspired thing.
Let's go.
Too small, we'll save it for another day. But this mama bear ball was just right. It's already blue, but I'm going to paint it anyway, even though it's a bad idea to paint things that could change with air pressure.
You're blowing up!
I feel funny!
I have a problem with acquiring Gundam kits and not building them.
Somebody stop me!
So I sabotaged a kit for these Sabatons, and then found these gauntlets and pauldrons from my Gundam bit box. I also had this sword left over from a dollar store robot. Then I got into some trouble to find these tubular game pieces to use for Meta Knight's limbs. To change the angle on these ankles and to make it more appropriate for ball curve, I'm using this hobby saw I just picked up to slice off a 45-degree cut. It leaves a pretty ragged edge, but we can make it baby smooth with a fine-grained sanding stick for this soft plastic. I'm using some blue poster tack to do a quick fit test, and so far leg ball is looking pretty good. This precarious test was enough to give me enough confidence just to go ahead and glue all the limbs to the ball. I'm using super glue, which dried scary fast. There was probably about half a second to change my mind after sticking down each limb. Aw, he's actually kinda cute at this stage. I'm finally trying original recipe spackle to patch up all those unsightly shoulder and hip gaps so the limbs and torso blend smoothly. It's a special technique of splotching and wiping and repeating as necessary until it looks pretty smooth. For Meta Knight's dollar store sword, which of course has a blank unfinished side, I'm doing a low effort cleanup job until I can squeeze this Gundam hilt over the top. Then I'm using a couple extra dollar store fragments to finish up the hilt. You probably think I don't know that this sword is called Galaxia, and I definitely do. Using some green stuff, I patched up the backside of Galaxia. You know what this kind of looks like? Delicious. I'm using the prongs from a disposable fork to make the 4 branches that stick off the sword. For the collar of Meta Knight's dimensional cape, I have this ribbed Christmas ornament. You could probably make about 4 Meta Knights per ornament. Write that down for your records. Once all the pieces were prepped, they were pretty dusty, so I gave them a delicate bath in soapy water, let them dry, then took them out to prime. Cool, all done. Everything was primed in a white or gray, except for the parts intended to be metal. Those were sprayed with gloss black. In many ways on this project, I treated Meta Knight the same way I treat my other robot boys. That means pre-shading using the airbrush to bake in the shadows along all of the creases, edges, and panel lines. The goal is to keep some of this subtle shading when we put the base coats on in the next step. For the ball bod that was originally blue, it gets a redundant coat of blue. And then I'm strengthening the shadow underneath Meta Knight's mask to shroud him in a little more mystery. I cut out a pattern for Meta Knight's eyes to use as a stencil with the airbrush. Now let's see those nice, crisp lines.
Behold.
Not my best, but we can mostly clean it up with a little brush detailing with the same shades. Meta Knight's naked body is done, and now we can start painting the rest of his clothes. The trick is to not put all of the paint on, just most of the paint. Once you've reached a point where the pre-shading you put down earlier is no longer visible, that's when you know you blew it and you need to take some of the paint off. It's too much. For the pauldrons, I sprayed a subtle gradient to mimic the work of the sun, building up from a royal blue at the bottom to a light blue at the top. Then I hit the trim with gold that I hand painted on. Then I spray stenciled a Meta Knight logo onto the left pauldron and traced it out in dark blue. Then I had a cool idea. Maybe I could give Galaxia these cool gleam lines going across the sword. No, it just looks like mustard stripes. I think I kind of fixed it by adding a white edge along all the yellow sections, but actually I don't think yellow and gold complement each other that well. And then I painted the ruby red. Here's the part of the video I never show. I always use a clear top coat on whatever I'm building. I just always neglect to film it because it's not very exciting to look at something invisible. It's important to strategically ruin the paint job of your model at all the points of contact where glue will be holding your model together. If you put the super glue directly on paint, it's much more likely for your two parts to break apart because the two pieces aren't actually bonding plastic to plastic, they're bonding flaky paint to flaky paint. It was very satisfying to be able to put all these fully painted pieces together rather than fully assembling and then painting the thing as a whole. This little bootleg amiibo is almost done. Meta Knight mains will notice that this model is ruined because he's supposed to be right-handed, but if you look at the source material, he's left-handed, then he's right-handed, so my model is also ambidextrous. This dimensional collar needs a dimensional cape, which I'll make using green stuff. I didn't want to use fabric, but I did want it to look like fabric, so after rolling it flat, I tried using a piece of cloth to add some texture to it. That was a bad idea. This was actually my 5th attempt at making the cape. The green stuff is very tenacious at sticking to itself and never letting go. And there you can kind of see the fabric texture. Time to cover up this nasty back. There, all done. Put his cape on and suddenly it's... And that means it's time to roll the beauty shots of Bill's build, but I won't spoil too much. You really ought to do yourself a favor and go watch his video because it's an excellent video. I haven't actually watched it yet, I just take that on good faith because every video he makes is excellent. I know on YouTube that you're only allowed to be subscribed to one person, so it's alright if you take your subscription away from me and go give it to Bill. He's earned it. No Patreon song or shout out in this video, we'll save that for the next one, but of course a huge and deep heartfelt thanks goes to all of my current and new patrons. That'll do it for this video. Thanks for watching. Go subscribe to Bill Making Stuff. You're going to have a good time. I give you the Studson guarantee. And I'll see you next time.